All right. Hey, welcome to another edition of I Dig Day Trading. It is Monday, August 17th, a little after 12:30 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. I do have a couple ticker symbols I want to talk about today, OPTI and ITHUF. But before we get to those, just want to put it out there that I took a week off from trading, did some studying, did some soul searching and all that. This is basically this channel is basically dedicated to my making public basically my trading journal. I'm a newbie, and I was keeping a trading journal with a spreadsheet, and I just was never looking at it, not really learning from it because I don't know, just get buried in everything else that I do. But doing it like this, talking it out, putting it on YouTube, getting some feedback from people, knowing that there may or may not be an audience, and sometimes just listening back to it for myself helps. And also in the description, I do write some notes, which I would have done in a traditional trading journal. It's helpful, but it is important that even when you don't make a trade, or even if you take a whole week off, to actually put that in your trading journal. So I'll just say real briefly, I took a week off basically because I wanted to hang out with some friends, hang out with my family. I was starting to turn into an asshole a bit towards my family, and I was starting to get a little isolated from my friends. And it's August, and I'm in Spain. I'm a New York resident, but I've been in lockdown. I've been in Spain, and I'm on a beautiful island in the Mediterranean. I'm not a wealthy person. Just that my wife's European, and this is where we met, and we split our time between the United States and Spain. And part of the reason why I also took a week off is that I got news that I'll be starting work soon in New York. I work in the film industry, and so I've had to try to do a little soul searching and see if I want to go back to work in that field or just continue with my momentum with what I've been learning with day trading. I will be going back to work. That's what I decided to do. It was a little difficult decision because I've been turning a corner, my learning curve and all that's been getting better, faster. I was about to invest some more money into another subscription to accelerate my training and my learning curve and all that, and decided to put that on hold since my main source of income has been put on hold since March, actually since May to be frank. So, so I decided to take a week off and just, and see what I feel about all this. And also, it's been great. I've been nicer and closer to my family. It's been great. And it's given me an opportunity to figure out how to balance day trading and being a member of a family and all that. So that's where that's all at. And so why don't we get to OPTI? So didn't do any trades last week, but and I didn't even really look at any ticker symbols that I've been following. Just did a lot of reading about the market in general. But what I like about OPTI is I found it myself. Like I said before in other videos, always proud of that. It's a low float stock, which for those of you who don't understand that just means that there's not a big supply of shares. So it has a tendency to spike when there's news or when there's excitement about the stock. The thing I've noticed about it, so I decided before I did this video, I thought I do have to put a screen up while I talk about my week off and soul searching and challenges of being a newbie day trader. I figure, well, I should put something up on the screen. I go, well, let's put up OPTI. That was something I was talking about a lot, a few days in a row, I think, prior to taking a week off. And I noticed that it has a tendency to, in the morning, this is today actually at 9:34 in the morning, to panic or to dip. I mean, it was up at 9 cents, 9.5 cents, and it panicked or dipped down to almost 8, and it had a little bit of a bump up to 8, 8.3, 8 cents 3, and then it really bottomed out about, I don't know, 10:30ish, 11 o'clock in the morning, and then it really got a good bounce. So one thing I've been realizing in some of the training I've been getting and some of the things in the chat rooms is that some of these things had a habit of how should I say, the dip and bounce has been happening later in the day. Not on all of them, but some of them. Something I've been noticing too is that I always try to play the dip and bounce here, and sometimes I get caught because or sometimes I miss it and I give up, and then I realize later, like an hour later, then something really happens a little bit more magical. Like, see, it pretty much bottomed out around 7 cents. We'll say 7 cents. We really got to about 7.5 cents, and then so let's see, 7.5 cents. Blah 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 blah. Almost 11 o'clock. 7 minutes to 11, and then literally 10 minutes later or 12 minutes later, it got up to 9 cents. And that's a good. Doesn't sound like much, but 7 cents to 9 cents. That's a good percentage gain on whatever if you were following this. And so I just wanted to point that out because I just needed to put something on the screen, and it's good for myself to actually study some charts when I'm not trading. The other one is a cannabis stock. I found it's got a lot in the float, 171 million in the float. It's a penny stock to the, look at this, 0.11. And the funny thing is about cannabis stocks, when I first started getting into day trading, it was cannabis stocks that really excited me because I was a cannabis legalization activist when I was in university many years ago, and I was a big proponent of legalization of marijuana, or cannabis, I should say, or at least hemp. And I felt like, yes, they should at least decriminalize it for people who only carry a certain amount on them, like less than an ounce, for example. And they shouldn't be punished to the full extent of the law for having a few joints or whatever. But the thing that really interested me, and this is something I learned when I was in university many years ago, is that it had all these economic and medicinal qualities. With hemp, you could make clothes, you could make paper, you can make rope. There was a whole documentary that showed how during the Second World War they made it legal for farmers to start growing hemp again because the U.S. Navy needed lots of rope. And hemp was a good, strong, and easy to cultivate plant to do that for the war effort. And then they scheduled it as illegal again once the war was over. The point is that this is more of an emotional thing for me, is that when cannabis stocks started becoming popular, a few years ago, well, at least for me a few years ago, that's when I got into day trading, or got into at least stock investing. And I invested in a couple marijuana stocks. One of them, and I got it right near the tail end of when they were still hype. And luckily, I sold one of them before they completely crashed, and the other one I've been holding. And if anybody's interested in cannabis stocks, I have a lot of self-made man knowledge about it. I've done my own research, done my own due diligence. I've studied up and down. It's been something I've been following for 20 plus years because I've always been interested in the legalization of hemp and of cannabis and of marijuana, recreationally, medicinally, and more on a economically, I guess is one way to put it. I mean, they're all economically, but in terms of it being like a product of something you can use, like paper and oils and and clothes and rope, and the list probably goes on and on. In any case, if one thing that I've been following cannabis stocks, and the big thing is the FDA. Once the Food Drug Administration, pushes the button and it says CBD can be added to be an additive to food and to drinks as a health food, as a health drink, and once they get that clearance and they get stopped being harassed by the FDA, I think we're gonna see another bull run on cannabis, and I think that's really the only linchpin that's holding the industry back. And I think if you have money in cannabis stocks and it's been terrible for you, the the question really is will this company survive while this waiting game goes on? Because the thing is, when with cannabis is that there's so many companies that are competing with each other for that moment when that moment happens. And I think the thing that one has to do is really look at the fundamentals of these companies and see which ones are the most have the most potential to survive this waiting game, because a lot of them invested a lot of money, a lot of them spent a lot of money acquiring other small cannabis companies, and then thinking that we're ready to do business, and then all of a sudden the government kind of put a kibosh on it, the U.S. government at least, and they found wow, our limited market is Canada and parts of Europe and Israel and things like that, and those markets they were calculating much larger markets. So I think that's the big thing. The FDA, just keep paying attention to what the FDA is doing. We had an election coming up. The Biden, Sanders coalition, we'll call it. It's a little vague what they might want to do with cannabis and with CBD in general. I've read conflicting reports that they'll advance it, and some that they say they won't advance it. So the question is you can always ask the question why are they making this so difficult? And my theory is that the big companies like I think Anheuser-Busch, for example, maybe it's not a good, but they're involved a little bit with this, with trying to make cannabis-infused drinks, and maybe cigarette companies. This is just a theory. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy theory, but I think it's just normal business, is that when companies see something new come along that's been illegal for a while, or just a new technology or a new product, and a lot of money, there's a potential for a billion-dollar market or $1 trillion market, and they see that they could be left out of it, not only left out, but go out of business, they're going to try to find a way to acquire it, to co-opt it, and take it over. And I think what their strategy is to form alliances with the government, lobbying, to slow down the process so that they will be ready and they will be positioned to take over, all these sub-cannabis markets. So that's probably another thing to look out for as well. So anyway, this one right here, ITHUF, I don't know. It's got a lot in the float. What's interesting about it is that they're a real estate company that owns and operates licensed cannabis cultivators, processors, and dispensaries throughout the United States. They're in Massachusetts, Vermont, and blah, blah, blah. It generates the majority of its revenue through Massachusetts. So, some of these real estate companies, and this one's small, and they only trade at 10 cents a share, but there's some that trade $100 a share, and it's they're bona fide real estate holding companies that lease land for marijuana cultivation, and you're probably gonna start seeing a lot more of that happening too, in terms of the whole cannabis thing. Anyway, I just wanted to rattle off a little bit about cannabis and OPTI a little bit, and then just why I had to take a week off, and hopefully I'll get back on the horse tomorrow. I'll see you then and let you know how that goes. All right, take care.